where the bright roses grow, on those roads of gold and silver snow. Howling wide a morning low, so many roads I know.
Hey now, thanks for tuning in. My name is Brent Bomia. The name of the show is Boogie Sessions. I'm here live Saturdays from 10 to midnight right here at KPFZ 88.1 FM, serving Lakeport, Clear Lake, Lake County, and a little bit beyond. Stay tuned. I've got a great show lined up for us, and don't touch that dial.
You know, I wanted to reiterate to the folks out there, I mentioned, Charlie, that you'd be on earlier in the program, and that you remaster many bootlegs of the Grateful Dead, from David Gans of KPFA and his own personal DATs to Rob Eaton, Bob Wagner, Paul Scott, and the list goes on, to name some of the most well-known tapers in the world of the Grateful Dead. You also contribute to the amazing World Wide Web Dead List Project, which pretty much keeps track of the thousands of hours of live Grateful Dead. And this is what you do in your spare time. And I guess my question is do you sleep?
Well, I got a 2-hour nap right before you called.
Well, in a way, I'm sorry that I had to wake you up. In a way, I'm not. You know, I've waited a long time to get a chance to talk to you.
It's okay. Well, you know, the music, David Gans and I have been friends for about 13 years now, and he had been giving me so much music over the years. So most of the stuff that he airs now actually comes from me. So I'm doing the work. I do the work for him, and I also help them out with the Sirius radio stuff. But David definitely helped me launch my musical collection years and years ago. And I also helped David with his solo career. I don't know how many of you know that, but David is a wonderful singer-songwriter.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, a while back when we were... This station has done a pretty amazing thing. We started off as a pirate station, then became a low-power station, and now we're full power. And back in the LPFM days, I played some Gans, and in fact, talked to him one time, and we have a small fairground venue up here, and we had talked briefly about him possibly playing, and then, I don't know, something happened, roll the dice, it didn't work out, but oh yeah, I'm a longtime fan of Gans, and I know a lot of people around here know that he's just an ace musician, absolutely. You know, how does somebody get access to all those amazing recordings and people?
Well, a lot of it came through working in the industry. You know, I've been working with Steve Kimmock for about 9 or 10 years or so, and through Steve's working with all the Grateful Dead members and their bands, I've met many people, and I've been given access to their tapes, the Grateful Dead crew members' tapes, vault tapes, other people's tapes, and Joni Walker's tapes, who you mentioned. And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And, you know, I'm lucky that I was trusted with them.
In terms of a day job, Charlie, I hear you're now working with a very cool band, the Heavy Pets. And if
they're wonderful.
And what are you doing for those for that band?
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm the road manager, the production manager, I'm the front of house sound engineer, and I'm the recording engineer. Basically, I'm doing everything, and I love to send you a copy of their new CD. It was produced by multi-platinum award winner Scott Matthews, who's worked with everybody from Roseanne Cash to Jerry Garcia to the Beach Boys. You name it, this person has worked with them, and he did a great job. They actually even released their new album on vinyl, and which it's always been a dream of mine to have one of my live recordings, out on vinyl, and the band has told me that at some point in the future they will release one of my mixes on vinyl.
But Charlie, like the quality of stuff that you do is just unbelievably amazing, and I know that you get a lot of accolades, and you know, I just want to let you know that up here in Northern California, you definitely have a band of hardcore followers, and we really, really appreciate all the hard work that you do in terms of Grateful Dead bootlegs and that, and we'd be very interested in hearing some stuff that you're doing for the Heavy Pets. Can I ask what the name of the CD is?
It's called, actually, their CD is called The Heavy Pets.
Okay, easy enough, The Heavy Pets.
And the website is heavypets.com. And we're doing I leave in a couple of days. We're doing a 2-month tour where we go up and down the East Coast, and then we're trying to come out to California in, I think, April or May. But I'm looking forward to that. You know, living in San Diego, I think it would be nice to have the band out here on the West Coast, so I wouldn't have to travel as far.
Sure.
But I used to actually live up in Mendocino in Humboldt County many years ago.
Really?
Yeah, when the Grateful Dead show that you're airing, when that show was happening, I was actually a resident of Humboldt County. I lived in Arcata. But I got some useless information for you about the show you're airing tonight. This is the kind of stuff that rolls. This is the stuff that rolls around my brain.
Okay.
It was the first show of 1992, and it was at Oakland Coliseum. And the post-drum segment of the show is identical to the first show from 1991.
Wow.
Post-drums, which is also at Oakland Coliseum. So they started. I guess they like to start off the year in that fashion because it was the same way. But the 1992 version was really great. It was a special feeling that night with the So Many Roads, and I happened to get lucky and snuck in. I snuck in. I caught the sound check. I was friends with one of the crew members, and I kind of got in a little earlier than I was supposed to, and I got to see the sound check, and they were doing it. It was kind of nice seeing it come together.
Wow.
But it was a nice night.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal recording, man. Thanks again. It said in the notes that I think you did this one in 2006.
Yeah, it was a present to Joni Walker from Dan Healy. Joni had come down with Joni's got multiple sclerosis, and she was unable to follow the shows. And Dan Healy would make tapes for her and give them to her so she'd be able to listen to them. And she's very good friends with Paul Scotton, and she handed her collection off to Paul Scotton, who lives about an hour from me, and once a month I drive up to his house and leave with about 50 or 60 tapes, and
oh man,
and that was one of the
little kid in a candy shop, huh?
Oh, you have no idea.
I have an inkling though. Trust me. God, thank God for sites like BTE Tree. I mean, I probably spend far too much time on that site just to nab your recordings. They're just phenomenal. Hey, listen, going back to the beginning of your involvement with the Grateful Dead, I'd like to ask how you first got turned on to them.
Well, it goes back to 1976, and it was the summer, and it was 1977. And my sister had a school friend over, and his name is Rob Leithstein, who is the guy who does the Grateful Dead Sirius channel. And I went to school with him, and he came over, and he used to play Grateful Dead tapes over at the house. And I was exposed to them through that, and I didn't realize that was Rob Leithstein until we had recently, about half a year ago, became friends and started talking and put the dots, connecting the dots, and realized, oh my gosh, we've known each other, and this is the guy that got me into the Grateful Dead back in the 70s. Wow. So yeah, I saw my first Grateful Dead show. I walked into the show and I was 15 years old, and when the show ended, I was 16. It was the show is November 2nd, 1979, and my birthday is November 3rd, and the encore started after midnight at 12:05. So
cool.
Yeah,
how cool! How cool!
I got to actually see them play a free show at Golden Gate Park for that Bill Graham memorial in 1991. I was front row for that. It was a sad day, but I was front row for a free Grateful Dead show in Golden Gate Park, and that was something, regardless of how the show was, that's something that I never thought I'd get to experience. I almost got ran over by Bob Weir when I was leaving. He was driving in, and I was leaving through a special area, because I had a hip injury, and I was, they let me through a disabled entrance exit, and Bob came flying in, and he was not paying attention and almost ran me over.
Was he driving a Vet?
No, he's driving a Beamer. He's driving a Beamer, and he got out of the car and I had a camera. I turned over to take a picture, and I realized, what the event was, and how lame it would be to take a picture. And he kind of looked at me, and like you're not going to take a picture. I mean, he kind of gave me a look. I felt so bad, like I was even thinking about it. And I just kind of bowed my head and walked away.
Right.
Yeah, but that was my then claim to fame. I almost got run over by Bob Weir.
Hey now, this is Willow, and I listen to Boogie Sessions with KC every Saturday night from 10 till midnight on the coolest station in Lake County, KPFZ 88.1 FM.
Interview that you did with those guys. I read that your first recording of the Dead was April 15th, 83.
Yes.
And then until how many recordings until 95 did you or Grateful Dead performances did you record?
Oh gosh. Well over 100. It was unbelievable. The way that happened was I had done that whole tour, and the night before that show, the night before was the day off, but the day before that was in Burlington, Vermont, and my seat was surrounded by tapers. And all I thought of is, if I had a tape deck, I could be plugged into these guys' decks and have a tape. And so on the way to Rochester, I stopped and picked up a cassette deck and some batteries and some tapes. My mother had left me her credit card in case of emergency since I was going on tour. She said, in case of emergency, take my credit card, and, I don't want you to get stuck. And I felt it was an emergency to buy a cassette deck and record the rest of the tour.
Good for you, man. That's phenomenal.
Well, it set off a chain of events throughout my life that, I'm now a professional recording engineer. I've met many people through the Grateful Dead organization. I've worked with every Grateful Dead member except for Jerry Garcia is the only person I never got to work with. I actually got hired to do a recording gig with Dark Star Orchestra and had Betty Cantor Jackson as my assistant. She is such a wonderful person. I've gotten very lucky working with some people. I mean, through working with Steve Kimmock, I've just, I've had some of the most wonderful experiences and got to work with a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's just been great. It's a dream come true.
I'm sure. Hey there, folks. Just a quick reminder: we are having a chat with legendary remastering wizard Charlie Miller, the guy who keeps thousands of fans of the Grateful Dead very, very happy on Boogie Sessions and KPFZ. Charlie, referencing the Dark Star Palace interview. Through the years, it seems like there has been a small, and I do mean small, camp of tapers that seem to take a purist approach in the sense that they seem to be against any form of remastering. You stated that you also take a purist approach by not adding any compression when you're in the role of remastering engineer for the Grateful Dead bootlegs. You also mentioned that in your past role as mixing engineer for the genius guitarist Steve Kimmock, it's obviously different dealing with those recordings because they are multi-track as opposed to the Grateful Dead's bootleg stuff because it's been recorded in stereo mixed down. To alleviate some of these very few naysayers, I guess, what would be your response to those that, are for some odd reason seem to be against the remastering scene?
Well, first off, let me state that Dan Healy, the Grateful Dead sound man, never used compression on his house mixes. He's one of the only sound men who, I use when I'm doing live sound, I use compression on the drums or maybe a little bit of the vocals, some things you have to do, but he would never do it. And I'm more of a purist. And with my remasterings, unlike some of the other people's remasterings where they use all kinds of limiters and compressions and EQs, I'm more of a purist where I'm basically fixing the pitch, cleaning up pops and clicks and ticks and little things that don't belong there, little gremlins. I just clean things up And if there's a tape flip and there's another source we can use to patch that tape flip, I do that, you know. So I'm more of the cleaning up. I'm not taking the audio and manipulating it the way others do. I'm just fixing some problems.
Once you get your hands on it, the end result is it just always sounds better, in my opinion. You know, I do want to mention on air as well, and I have given some thanks out to you in the past on air. That probably 40%, a good 40%, I would say, and that's probably a conservative estimate of what the Grateful Dead that I spent on this show are your remasters. And I can't thank you enough, man, just to keep going, just keep doing it, you know?
Oh, I do it all day long. The secret is, the reason the tapes sound better is the tapes that I'm working with are right from the Grateful Dead's masters. I've got the actual tapes at my house. I have a lot of Phil Lesh's tapes, and I've got a lot of a couple of crew members who rather not have their names mentioned. I've got a lot of their tapes at my house, and I've got the original tapes to work with and high quality gear to do the transfers with. Whereas the copies that are on the internet beforehand, they may say they're from masters, but they're really not. They may have a couple of analog generations hit in there that people don't know about. So that's one of the main reasons the tapes sound a little bit better is I'm working right with the original tapes.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's conservative of you to say that it's a little better. I mean, God, the stuff that you do is just amazing, man. I mean, and I can't say thanks enough. If I can ask what maybe some of your projects that you're currently working on, I know that you're working with the Heavy Pets, and that's probably taken up a lot of time. But any current Grateful Dead bootlegs that you're...
Oh, yeah. I've been working nonstop on getting David Gans a bunch of material for his upcoming KPFA marathon. But I'm working on releasing the complete June 1976 tour made from cassette masters that are off of Dan Healy's mix, and also a pair of microphones that were set up by Dan Healy at the soundboard. So we have both soundboard and audience tapes made by Dan Healy.
Wow.
So we're going to release, you know, first the audience tape, then the soundboard. So we're going to go through the whole tour.
Wow. I'm like salivating here, man.
there's a bunch of shows from 1973 I'm working on. There's 22269 that I'm working on. And there's a few things. I've got a couple of little things that are going to be surprises, because not only have they not been released before, there are shows that people don't even know ever existed.